We've got time to take one more question. Now, we had a lot of questions on this issue, and it's from Corinne Lowe, please.
Yeah, Britain has promised nearly £1 billion of aid over 3 years to India. Can we afford this in the current climate of cutbacks?
There's been a lot of questions about whether we should go on funding aid to India. Nigel Farage.
Well, we're giving £50 million a day to the European Union, and on top of that, we now have and that budget is due to go up by 60% in the next 2 years. And at the same time...
Do you answer every question in terms of Europe? Even a question that's asked about India?
It's interesting, David. But this, of course, is the great truth of our life that everyone's tried to deny for years, is just how important this issue is.
Yeah, but
and the fact that most of our laws come from here.
Yeah, but it wasn't the question.
Well,
can you answer Corinne's question?
Well, I've answered... I'm the only panellist that's answered each of the questions directly before. I will come to your question. It is completely mad that here we are with aircraft carriers, with no aeroplanes, where this week we've announced that 100 pilots who we'd spent an average of £3 million each on, who'd almost completed their training, suddenly being told it's all ended, and yet we're going to give £300 million a year to a country that has aircraft carriers, with up-to-date jets, with trained pilots, with nuclear weapons, and with a government that admits it doesn't need the aid. We are pouring too much money away.
Victoria Bouncy.
Well, as a percentage of GDP, you can probably tell me, Vince, how much do we actually spend on overseas aid? I mean, it is
it's rising to something like less than 1%.
Exactly, it's very small. I agree. I think there's an issue. We have to review all the time where that is best spent. I mean, there are, at the moment, for instance, after the incredible floods that there have been everywhere, there are probably other places we should also be spending. But, it's a very small amount of money. It needs to be constantly reviewed, but I would hate to see it cut back.
But India is the question, Vince Cable. Should it go to India, which, as Nigel Farage says,
yes, I would
is a hugely growing economy, 8% a year?
The easiest thing for the government to have done in its aid budget would be, in the face of all the cuts, to have said, charity begins at home, let's stop giving money to foreigners. We'd probably got a big round of applause from a lot of people. But we stuck to our guns and argued that actually the aid programme that we have, which is quite modest but valuable and is targeted on some of the poorest people in the world, is something we want to keep.
But when you say the poorest people, India is...
Yes, India is also...
But they don't want the money, then.
No.
The government doesn't want the money.
Well, because the money that we do channel through our aid programme does not go to the central government of India. It goes into specific projects in some of the poorest parts of the world. India is a vast country, I know it very well. And there are parts of India that are highly developed. And there are other parts that are the poorest parts of the world, poorer than parts of Africa. And the money is channeled very often into non-government organisations helping those people, and it's helping with real development.
But if India's growing at over 8% a year, when we're growing at 0%, don't they have the resources to do that?
No, they don't. No, they don't.
They've got aircraft carriers and planes, things we haven't got. Cancelling
aircraft carriers in India would not deal with the poverty of about 500 million people who live at the absolute bottom level of subsistence.
OK. The woman in red there, yes.
They're also spending millions on a space programme.
Yes.
So
yes. You think it's wrong that this should be spent this way?
They need to be looked at, because they've also got 3 times as many, dollar billionaires in India than what we've got.
OK.
Well, they're investing a lot of the money here.
And the woman up there, the second row from the back.
This is to Vince Cable. What about the poor people here? What about the disenfranchised here? What about spending some money here?
Well, we are, and we should.
No, you're not.
We are, and we should.
No, you're not spending money here. You're giving billions away in foreign aid. You're not spending money here. You want to wake up and smell the coffee. There's lots of poor people here.
Well, absolutely, and absolutely right. One of the first things this government did when we came in was to protect the basic state pension. It had been abandoned for many years, and we've now linked it to earnings. That is the most vulnerable section of the community, the elderly. Their pensions are now protected. That was our top priority. The fact that we look after them does not mean to say we should walk away from hundreds of millions of people overseas who are far poorer than anyone in this country
As
is ever
Nigel
likely
Farage
to.
pointed out, they've got a space programme. How much are they spending on that?
Well, not large sums in relation
please.
to
They must be
poverty
spending millions on a
requirements of the
space
country.
programme, and you're still giving them money. You're disingenuous and pretentious.
No,
I'm sorry.
not at all.